Okay, I think we are going live. Let's let people show up here. All right. Oh, we got a little reflection through the blinds. All right, people are starting to show up. Lots of people are coming. Here we go. Hello, Angie. Hi. There we go. William Knoll, Stella, Esther, Emma, Tara Jones, Tian, Regina. Hello, hello. Kathleen Howard. Roll call. Shouting out everybody. Gail, Margaret Dillinger. Thank you guys so much. Awesome. Sorry, I was a little bit late there. I was setting up the computer and I was trying to get the lighting. There's a little glare. You can see it comes across. Looks like I'm getting scanned, but we'll stay to the side of that. And I have a little light going, but I think that'll be good. All right, over 200 people are showing up from Barbados all over. Very cool. I love it. Good day, Donna. Good stuff. Okay, guys. So it's been a little it's been a couple weeks since I've done a live, and there's been a lot of questions about, what's going on with my channel and why is it getting so restricted? I scratched my eyelid right there. You can see, I can see that's on there. It's a little red. That's okay though. I've had a lot of questions on that lately. We've talked about it a lot, and I've talked about, gosh, how the restrictions are just smothering the channel's growth. And because you guys are so awesome, the channel is still growing, but for example, I was able to help that young girl. She's a teenager with a huge nodule on the face. And that video would have had 1 million views in a week. The trajectory was going straight up. They didn't restrict it right away for like the first hour. And I think in that first hour, there was tens of thousands of views right off the bat. And then all of a sudden it was restricted and you just see it go straight down. And it's so tough to put so much time and work into something, and editing and how much time goes into that, and then see it just kind of get squished out, unfortunately. And it's an awesome story and being able to help somebody, and it's why I do, what I'm doing. And yeah, I know the restrictions, people are, this whole channel has been restricted. And that's been for about a year now. And even my lives, they don't allow advertising, normal advertising. So we talked about it. You guys hear me whining about it all the time. Oh, thank you, Esther Miroff. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. But I think I figured out a way, guys, and I'm going to talk about it right here in the beginning, and then we're going to go on and talk about dermatology diagnosis of acne. But I have started a new channel. It's only been up 1 day. And one of the best ways that you could help me is by subscribing to it. It's a fishing channel. It's just one of my passions. And I've got 10 years of content that I've been building. I live on a lake. I'm just going to talk about this right in the beginning here. I'm going to put the link to it. It's MrPopZit Fishing. I only have like 3 subscribers. I just opened it yesterday. But if you guys can help that grow, that is fully monetized. And that is something that I could grow, and the brand can still grow and it can get ads. And I want to have very interesting stuff on it. And I've got 10 different types of videos I'm going to be putting on there. It's just starting now. But what I'm going to be doing is 1 to 2 videos a week on both channels. And if you guys can go and click that, and just subscribe, and you don't have to buy anything or anything. I will have new videos there. All you gotta do is click and an ad goes, and then I can still get advertising on that channel, and that can have the whole MrPopZit brand grow on both channels. So I can still keep doing this, even though there is almost zero money in it. And as you can see, a lot of other providers have stopped sharing videos. Sarah Bryan, thank you so much. Thank you. That's amazing. for the support. A lot of other providers have stopped doing their videos, and the reason is because they're kind of squeezing it out and smothering these channels. But I like these channels. I like my channel, and I think it helps people. I've had so many people come in that have learned something, and or they've seen it on my channel, and I think it's a great teaching tool, and I enjoy doing that. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep it going. But this fishing channel, it's called Bang Biscuit Bass Fishing, or MrPopZit Fishing. You can look it up in both names. Bang Biscuit, Bisket, Bass Fishing. I'm going to put a link in the description of this live video, and I'll mention it a couple times. It's brand new. I'm going to have underwater drone footage. If you have kids, they'll love just seeing the fish. It's going to be pretty cool. So it's we've tried all these different things. We tried paid subscriptions. This is an advertising forum. That's what YouTube is, and people don't mind if there's a small ad that plays at the beginning of their video, because that's what it's always been. And trying to do anything other than that, I think, trying to go to Patreon or these other things, it just didn't feel right. And so this is my kind of last ditch effort to keep all this going, and to pay for the lawyer's fees and all those things. So I think it's gonna be fun, and I think it could work. Oh, thank you so much, Kathleen. Yeah, you should be able to see it. It's gonna be beautiful sunset pictures. You're gonna see me fishing with the kids. I know maybe not everybody is into fishing, but there's gonna be some great. I'm going to be doing some tutorials on toxic golden algae and how I saved my lake. It's gonna be educational, and it's gonna be really fun. And I'm gonna take my oh my gosh, so cool, Carolina Ross. Thank you guys for subscribing and helping it grow. I can get ads on there after 1,000 subscribers, and I figured you guys can make that happen in an instant. So that would be so cool. It's called, if you look up MrPopZit and then fishing, it should come up, and it has a picture of me holding the fish and a sunset across there. So 20 subscribed. Look at that. Just already. I had 3 as of today. So I really appreciate it. And it's going to keep this whole thing going. Both channels. I've got 1 or 2 videos a week. We're going to just keep it all going. And I figured, when I upload a video, if you guys are like, hey, I can click on that video and I get an ad on my other channel, and then these are still what they're going to be, and they're going to be free, and everything's free. And I think that's it's going to work, and it's going to be fun at the same time. So it's going to be very educational, just like this channel is. I've got so much planned for that other channel. It's going to be a building process, which is going to be pretty neat. And I really appreciate the support. It'll be on the description here. So if people see this in the beginning, but they couldn't get back to it, no worries. But MrPopZit Fishing, same blue glasses too. Just they've got UV protection. I'm going to talk about sun protection on that channel. There's a lot of crossover in fishing and dermatology. So, this is, yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's right. This is my work that I'm very passionate about, and that is my passion that I work at all the time, trying to get better. And I've fished since I was 5 years old, and passing that on, it's a great pastime. And I know there are some fishing channels and hunting channels that are getting demonetized on YouTube. They are dispatching animals usually if they're killing the animals. I'm not doing that. I'm a catch and release, and I'm about conservation and lake conservation, and making sure you have a healthy fishery. I actually manage this lake, and one of the people who manage it. And I'm in that place because I found I helped diagnose the toxic golden algae that this lake had, and I helped fix it. So it's going to be a cool story. I know, Hesdale, 1,000 subs, give us 5 minutes. I totally agree. If any group it is possible, and I know I really was excited to bring this to you guys, because so many of you and my true fans are like, how can we help you? We really want to help you. You guys want to keep this channel going. And you really like it. And I didn't want to do paid subscriptions. I did it for a tiny bit, and it didn't feel right, and I took it off like within a week. And so I've been racking my brain, and I wanted to do this channel for actually quite some time. It's just, I wasn't very good at editing before, and this channel has helped me get good at editing. And you're going to see some cool shots underwater, slow motion as I'm catching a fish, all because of my editing from this channel. I can now edit that other channel. Um, so that is, I appreciate it. I think it's going to work. Actually, I think it's gonna be fun. And 1,000 subscribers. Exactly. I think it could go, in a day. Ellen Trimmel, thanks so much for the support. Somebody asked before we get into acne here, what is the status of the guy with the metastatic melanoma? And I have been waiting to talk about him. He did very well. True crime lover, thank you so much. My wife is a huge true crime lover. Every time I see that name, it makes my wife is totally into the true crime stuff. So thank you for the support. The guy with the melanoma, and we talked about, he was good for 9 or 10 months, and he doesn't. I talked to him about sharing this. He's going through a rough time. He has had 30 Mets pop up on his body. And Teresa, thanks for subscribing to the fishing channel. I totally appreciate it. And the grandkids are gonna love it too. Yes, Hot Wheels Master Channel. There's only 3 or 4 videos on there now, but it's going to number 46. That's so cool. Gosh, it's coming in waves. Lori Brown, thank you so much for the support. So back to my melanoma patient. He luckily has the type of metastatic melanoma that you could use the newer medications that have come out. And he's getting scans, and his scans were all negative. He is a very unique patient. And as a lot of you know that have had family members with melanoma, it's tough, and it can look like it's okay for a long time, then all of a sudden come out. And the fact that we found that big one, I had talked to him. I said, even though these scans are negative, you got to keep them up, because I've seen this happen so many times. And he had a lot of different Mets, and he's been battling it, and his medication seems to be working. And we were going to do a follow-up with him. He's going and getting the rounds with the oncologist. He comes in to see me every 3 to 6 months, and I'm just documenting his metastases, his little dark spots that have come up. And, it's keeping a positive attitude. He's a great guy, and he's due to come in the next 3 to 6 months, where we'll do we're going to do a follow-up, and he wants to talk about he's such a cool guy, talk about his walk with this and how difficult it is. And that was a good story and a crazy find that we found. So, we stay positive and see how he can do. So thank you. That's a good question. 64 on the new channel. We're already up to 64. I'm almost 1/10 of the way there. That's amazing. in one day. That's so cool. Thank you guys. I'll probably pop in and do some about the other channel, because I know not everybody's here right now, but as a collective, you guys are very capable of making things happen. So, and so much so, even though that last video got restricted, and I understand restrictions 18 and over, there's some blood, I totally get that, but when they restrict it, they don't share it. They don't, a lot of times for most people, because if people aren't signed in with a credit card, they don't send out the notification. And so it talk about just snuffing out the video, and I see it before they restrict it. It is going through the roof. Like, as a whole, people know now 2 years in who MrPopZit is. And when I do something, it's like, oh, boom, 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 it starts. And then they just pull the rug out. And it's frustrating. And I know a lot of you are frustrated too, because I've seen it in the comment section. To put so much time and build something, and then just their ability. I think what frustrates people so much is that there's other content out there that you can see that isn't restricted, and there's some bad content, there's some bad people, there's some stuff that is not I don't know, the best way to say it is not becoming of a of a polite channel. Is that the best way to put it? I'm not sure, but yeah, so that's what's frustrating people, because they know they see other stuff and they're like, man, these people aren't restricted, but this guy who's trying to educate and help people is. And it is frustrating. But I think this new channel, thanks Jenny L, MrPopZit Fishing, I think it's going to be a way that, in essence, I can get an ad. I'm doing 2 or 3, probably 1 to 2 videos on each channel each week. If you guys just click over and click play and then come right back and you can watch your MrPopZit stuff, my dermatology channel. That is a way, in essence, I can get ads, ad revenue, and then I can keep the whole MrPopZit thing going. And I had a lot of ideas for the names of the fishing channel too. You'll hear about what a bang biscuit is. It's, people have names for when they catch a big fish. Bang biscuit is one that my friends and we all had. One of my friends came up with it, and I just thought it was hilarious. And we've been doing that for like 10 years. And I was like, you know what? I've got all this footage. Let's get it going. So it's going to be nature based, and I'm really actually excited about it. And I've learned a lot since my lake got toxic golden algae, and it's a scourge, man. It killed our whole lake, and the only reason our lake is still alive is because I handpicked out 50 bass that were getting ready to die and brought them back to life. Started in my swimming pool, in my bathtub, and that's how we diagnosed it. It's a really interesting story. And then we ended up putting them in a koi pond, and I hand fed them, and I have video of it, goldfish each week. That was the brood stock. Those 50 bass are what repopulated this lake in just 2 to 3 years, where it would have taken 5 to 7 years. So it's a great story, and I'm going to tell it, and I've got a ton of video of it. So it's going to be fun. I think you guys will enjoy it. Even if you don't like fishing, it's an interesting story, and it's something that is attacking fisheries, freshwater fisheries all across the United States. And the history of toxic golden algae is actually kind of crazy. So we'll get into that on that channel, but already up to 77. That is so cool. I love it. Yes, Jules Wick. I know it sounds like I'm on repeat sometimes, but there's a lot of people that don't understand the demonetization. Claudia Paredes, thank you so much for the support. Thank you. There's a lot of people that don't understand the demonetization thing. And so I get it every day. People are like, well, why is he whining about, that this channel, that he's not making any money on it, or the time he's putting in it. And it's a shame. And I do see there are other popping channels. They're not posting videos, or they're greatly reducing them. But I've got so many videos. If I slowed down, they would pile up so much. I've got a lot of great videos coming for you guys. So I'm not slowing down. I'm just going to readjust and have these other edits. But so we are 17 minutes in. Let's get to some acne. It should be fun. Oh man, my allergies have been bad. I took my allergy pill, but I went outside right before I did this, and it's getting me. You can hear I'm a little raspy. The springtime in Southern California, it gets me. I have a little hay fever, or pollen's in the air, and we get a lot of pollen here. I take antihistamines, but it still gets me here and there. So let's talk about acne. As a provider, what an opportunity I think acne is. A lot of nurse practitioners and physician assistants and nurses and students actually too on my channel here. And a lot of people think, oh, acne is the boring part. It's just boring. It's the boring part of dermatology. If you go into it thinking that way, you're going to bring that across to your patients. And acne is an opportunity to shine. And if you unpack it correctly and you do it well, I have got and physicians on my channel. Yes, Britt Common. I can't leave the physicians out. Absolutely, it's very cool. Actually, I think that physicians are on my channel. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point. What an opportunity. I can't tell you, as my practice as a physician assistant has grown, one of the main ways that people have come in and brought their family members or their aunt is because I fixed their child's acne or their acne. And it's been very cool. It's been probably one of the number one ways that I have grown at my practice. It is very fascinating and complex. I agree, Jules Wick. If you get into it and if you can understand it and unpack it correctly, you can come across as a very capable provider, and you can change people's lives. I mean, acne is your face is what people are seeing. Um, Giggles Dean and awesome. It's so cool that you guys, I love the MrPopZit fishing. It's growing. It's going. All we got to get to is 1,000. I do need 4,000 hours of viewing, but that'll take some time. I don't have any videos up yet, but as I get the longer videos, that will happen. But getting that first 1,000 subscribers is the hardest part. So thank you guys so much. But yes, acne, when it's right up front, that's what everybody's seeing. And I have people come in and you can just see them. They're in their own cave of misery. They won't look me in the eyes, young kids, and to watch them come out and be happy. It's so fun. I really enjoy it. It's one of my most fun things that I do in my practice is watching that flower just open and them come out and smile and look you in the eyes and they come back in and watch their self-confidence. So that's really fun. And when you look at it that way and you go in, it's actually when you do it every day, I don't find acne to be difficult. It is, there are different types of acne, and understanding the pathogenesis of it, and what triggers are, what type of acne you're dealing with, and you can unpack that, then you have a bunch of stuff that you can use. And I actually got this right off the AAD, Academy of Dermatology, American Academy of Dermatology, understanding acne pathogenesis. And I didn't want to miss one of these because I think this was it's a perfect unpacking of it. Follicular hyperkeratinization, dead skin cells, clogging the pores. That is a mechanism of acne. Microbial colonization with P. acnes, which is a bacteria that is on our skin, but it can colonize, overgrow, and some people have a huge response to that particular bacteria. That also causes okay, I just got an update, sorry. That also causes some severe acne. Sebum production. There are many reasons why people overproduce sebum. Obviously, oils, coming from the sebaceous glands in the teenage years because of hormonal issues, especially for women. These are all things that cause sebum overproduction. The other complex inflammatory mechanisms. Absolutely. There's a lot of different types of inflammation in the body because of other conditions. And sometimes that carries over. Neuroendocrine regulatory mechanisms. Absolutely. The endocrine system and having, the first thing that I ask every female, 12 to 55, basically, is have you had a history of fibroids in the uterus? Have you had endometriosis? Have you had any cysts of the ovaries? Any of those things, because those can cause an inflammatory cascade of estrogens and progesterones that can throw off so many things in your body, but are specifically feed acne and cause big, deep, itchy, inflammatory nodules that leave post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Being Nancy, I'm a fishing enthusiast now. I love that. Yes, there's not everybody is into fishing, but I think people have a true, I guess what I would say is affinity towards nature and keeping healthy waterways. I think there's a lot that goes into that. And I think fishermen are on the forefront of noticing and capturing it. That's what happened on my lake. And that's the story I'm going to tell. I went into this board committee that managed the lake. And I said, something is wrong. Something's going on. The fish aren't biting. They're not in their normal spaces. And everybody was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's fine. And then the lake died 2 weeks later. And they're like, wow, this guy seems to know something. And now I am the co-chair of that management committee. So I'm going to tell that story, but that's on, I'm just teasing my MrPopZit fishing. It's going to be pretty cool. So I digress. I'm like squirrel here. I'm all over the place. I think somebody even said squirrel. Neuroendocrine regulatory mechanisms. Yes. So we're going to go into that a little bit too. So we're going to touch on all these and why being able to differentiate which type of acne is in front of you helps you with how you're going to treat it. Diet, big one. They used to say for years when I first started out, even 10 to 15 years ago, diet has nothing to do with it. People used to say it all the time. I was trained by a couple, on my rotations. And I remember being a student in the room, and one of the providers was like, no, diet has nothing to do with it. And the person was like, is it diet? Is this? And he just like swept it to the side instantly and just kept going on. Um, so I can't wear the glasses with the lighting. It reflects horribly, and you guys will just look at this orb on there. Um, so well, where we're at, I digress here. Diet, yes. So there's been a couple, not a ton of studies, but there's been some studies, particularly I think on the East Coast of the United States. Um, and they speaking of acne, I see I got a little bump here. They about diet and about dairy in particular and sugars. And they did find in a couple of these small studies that it was associated with about a 16 to 19% increase in inflammatory pustules. And so I tell people diet isn't the core, usually, especially in teenagers, cause of it, but it is playing a part. And it can be up to 20% usually of your acne can be caused by diet. So there's not a ton of studies to back that. But when I tell that to people, they definitely let me see what this is. So we have somebody in here, I think. Yeah, here we go. Let's get them out of here. Let's remove. Boom. So that hasn't happened in a while. I don't think in my lives I've had just a total troll come in like that. That's why it was good to have a moderator. But yeah, we got him out. So diet, genetic factors, and genetic factors are definitely, some people are just more prone to it. I do see that. I do see, yeah, troll alert. Thank you. They're out. um, I do see people come in with horrible acne scars, and they're coming in with their children, and they're 13, 12, and they're trying to catch it before their children are scarred like they were as an adult. So I do see that all the time. So that definitely plays a part. And then non-genetic factors too. There are just other things. Sometimes people just really flare out of nowhere. If they start like a different workout regimen, they're sweating more, there's more warmth and moisture on the skin, they tend to get more of like a folliculitis. So it is it's there's a lot of different pathogenesis. So when I see somebody come in, and another thing, um absolutely culturing Staph aureus or MRSA, you can I can tell the difference almost by just looking at it after years and years. When you see like a inflammatory MRSA folliculitis or abscess, as opposed to pretty bad severe acne. I have cultured acne before, and I have found that before, but it's just the normal acne that comes in. We see quite a bit. And what I am seeing, which is interesting, that 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds, about it as low as it's gone. Starting menstruation, little girls starting menstruation at 6 and 7 and 8. 9, 10, 11, 12 isn't that rare, but the 6 and 7-year-olds starting to get comedonal acne, overproduction of oil, and starting menstruation. I have seen that in the last 8 years more than ever before. Hello, Space Monster Killer. He made it. Scotty, shout out. So there's a lot of people saying that some of the, hormones that are going in meats, who knows? I don't want to just, push hearsay, but I have been seeing that sometimes these kids hitting puberty a little bit earlier, and a lot of people are asking why. And I know there's been speculation of different hormones in our milks and meats and things like that could play a part. Who knows? I know people are doing studies on it, and they're trying to find out. So, but doesn't matter what the pathogenesis or maybe why that's happening. When they're in my office and they want help, we need to help them. So, if it's just something in the diet changes in certain countries of the world, it could be, but we're still going to help them. So, When you look at the protocols for mild, moderate, or severe are pretty similar, actually. A lot of times, a topical something agent that kills bacteria, in particular P. acnes or other bacteria that can be in the pores. A lot of people will do like a benzoyl peroxide, which is good because that destroys the cell wall of the bacteria. It does not, they don't build up a resistance to it like they do with erythromycin and clindamycin, which there is a ton of resistance, and that's clinically proven. Um, uh, but it is something I utilize for sure. I do use clindamycin topically as a solution with their antibiotics. Intermittently, I try to use it. Um, so we do utilize that. So topical antibiotics, intermittent oral antibiotics, and retinoids. Those are kind of the baseline. And there's all kinds of different strengths and different applications that we use. And a lot of people, you mentioned Accutane on here, isotretinoin, which is just a pill form of a retinoid. Some people do have issues with it, with liver inflammation. That's the last thing that I use, and I do use it. But I rarely have to go to it, to be honest with you, less than 5 to 10% of the time. But for the people I do go to it, it's life changing for the most part. Um, so it is, that is the last thing. It's like the top of the mountain. If we need to go there, we go there. And usually it's because somebody's getting severe scarring and it's starting to really change their face or their torso. So that being said, I when I have a 14-year-old patient coming in that's just comedonal, they're just getting the little whiteheads and blackheads, and maybe 10, 12, 14, they don't really have the deep nodules yet. Maybe they're not going to get the bigger inflammatory ones. I will use something in the morning topically and something in the evening before they go to bed, usually a retinoid at nighttime to help reduce oil production, to help dissolve the plugs that are plugging the skin and allow the oil to kind of free flow better. But it shrinks up the pores if they're having large pores, and it does dry up acne. So whether I use a benzoyl peroxide in the morning, or we go to something like a clindamycin, we're trying to kill bacteria for the pustules, and then that reduction of oil with the retinoid and the dissolving of the plugs, the keratin, which is what retinoids can do over time. Glycolic acid and salicylic acids, people do utilize those as well. You got to be really careful when using them with a retinoid. Retinoids will dry you out in the beginning, and telling the person, hey, to start slowly with the retinoid. So many providers I see don't do that, and I don't know why. If you just go right into a retinoid, you will peel severely, even on the lower strengths. If you go every third day or every third night for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then every other night the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then 4 to 6 weeks in, you're doing it every night, you can bypass most of that severe irritation, as long as you're using a gentle cleanser and you're moisturizing. So that took me 10 seconds right there to say that. If you just saying that as a provider is so important. Those are the two things I say: ease into the retinoid, have a gentle cleanser. I usually, people are on to glycolic acids and salicylic acids, the OxyClear and those types of things before they come in to see you. So you need to tell, because they're over the counter, and they're usually not enough for moderate to severe acne. So I tell them, hey, stop those. And now we're going on to some prescription strength, because if you don't say that, they're going to get severely irritated usually if they keep doing their salicylics and glycolics. For some people, you can still utilize them. They're really over producers of oil, but just as a habit, I usually tell them, we're getting you on these medications, go to a gentle cleanser. Dove, Cetaphil, CeraVe are ones in the United States, made for sensitive skin that I recommend to people. I do like CeraVe and Cetaphil because they have lipoproteins in them, ceramides, filagrins, that help repair dry skin and repair the barrier of the skin. They're lipoproteins that hold together skin cells, help things to hold in moisture. That's good for acne, but it's also good if you're severely dry from your topicals. So that is, and I do have people, benzoyl peroxide, and I think Scotty just said that here. Some people are really sensitive to benzoyl peroxide. They just turn beet red, and they have a sensitivity to it. And because of that, and I've had lots of patients that have that sensitivity. They're just beet red and they just can't tolerate it. And it's not even an over drying. It's almost like a slight allergic or just oversensitivity reaction. So I don't use a lot of benzoyl peroxides. I do like it in its ability to destroy bacteria without building up resistance, like erythromycin and clindamycin have. But I utilize it specifically case to case. The other is when we were talking about with retinoids, there's a lot of different retinoids, and adapalene and different actually technically isn't a retinoid. A lot of people don't know that, but it works just like it. I won't go into deep on that, but tretinoin, tazarotene, Tazorac, those are retinoids, and they've been around for years, and they can severely dry you. You really have to respect them and ease into them. Now, another thing that's not mentioned a lot of times is flare in the beginning. There was a huge clinical trial, I think over 70 to 80,000 young adults. And they noticed that about 1 out of 5 of them got worse before they got better. My dog just got up. I think he's going downstairs. They got worse before they got better. So with that, when that happens, if you don't say that to a 14-year-old, and I say it to almost every single acne patient, hey, there's a small chance, 1 out of 5, you may get worse before you get better. Power through it. Don't stop. If you don't say that, and a young 14-year-old, their acne gets worse with what you gave them, 100% of the time they're going to stop. They're going to be like, this guy didn't help me. He made me worse. So it is, it's you got to say that, and when you do, they power through it. The 1 out of 5 it happens to, and then they get better. The ones that you don't say that to will come in and say they're still the same. You didn't make me any better. And I'm like, did you use everything? No, I stopped because it made me worse. Sulfur, great. If you don't have a sulfur allergy, the sulfur washes are spectacular. I used to utilize those all the time. One problem is hundreds of dollars here in the United States. A lot of them are. Trying to think of some Sumaxin. There was a couple different brands, but man, they got really expensive, and but they can be great. Some people do really well on sulfa washes. When I can utilize them, I do. It depends on the patient, but that was a good question, Lessa. And the most important thing is Arlene, MrPopZit Fishing, for people who came in late. It's my other channel. You hear the beginning of this. I won't rehash it, but it is something that I'm going to be building right alongside with this, and it's something that can be monetized. If they demonetize that one, get ready. I'm gonna blow up. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, to be honest with you. But who knows? I'm not doing anything, dispatching animals or anything like that. I'm not, filleting them, anything. I know there's fishing channels that got demonetized for that, and hunting channels. So, but I'm just keeping it about nature and keeping it fun and all catch and release, and about conservation, fisheries conservation. So back to acne. So, one thing, the gentle cleansers are important. The retinoids that we were talking about, there's different strengths. Tretinoin is a very common one, Retin-A, 0.025, 0.05, and 0.1. I will ease into those. That is because I can get them. I'm just drinking water right now. You can get into them not being covered with the insurance. So there's only certain ones. Tazarotene is one of them. Tazorac can be $800 to $1,000 for a cream. I wouldn't ask anybody to pay $1,000 for a cream for their acne. Sometimes you can get it covered with the insurances if I fail some of the others. So I know in other countries, in the American medicine, we have to jump through hoops sometimes. A lot of times there are algorithms for insurance, good or bad. I know there's a lot of different, UK is here. There's a lot of people in Europe with, and there's only certain things covered over there too. I know it's a problem worldwide, but usually trial and error, I can get things covered. And if somebody fails, then we can go to the next thing. So ultimately I can usually most of the time use what I want in acne. But sometimes we got to fail some things to get there. So Adapalene tends to be not as harsh on the skin. Differin or Epiduo was a big one with the benzoyl peroxide, micronized benzoyl peroxide. I love that medication. I used it a lot. It's hard for me to get it covered, although the 0.1 has gone generic, I think, so you can use that. So the bigger thing, we can talk about protocols. I do utilize oral antibiotics, the tetracycline group. A lot of people do that. For inflammation, there is an anti-inflammatory component to the tetracycline group, minocycline, doxycycline. It does eradicate bacteria to a degree, but there's also that inflammation reduction. The main thing that I do, though, is I pulse dose them. And I realize a lot of people in dermatology do, but primary cares do not, that I know of. They'll keep them on at 6 months to a year. And what can happen is you can kill skin, flora or gut flora when you're on an antibiotic too long, which can allow other bacteria to overgrow. You can overproduce acid in the stomach that could lead to ulcers. The gut biome is important, and being on antibiotics too long, there's a lot of studies that back this. It is not good in the long run. So I will utilize it for a month or two, and then I'll take them off for a month or two. So pulse dosing like that, you let, the acid in the stomach, you're not getting overproduction a lot of times. You allow bacteria in the gut to kind of normalize or level out. When you pulse dose them, you can bring down the inflammation. So it's something I utilize every day. And for the right patient, it can be life-changing because you can bring down that inflammation. You get them on the retinoid. You talk about diet with them, and a lot of them do great. Sometimes there's a small group that you got to go to the next thing. So it is, it's on a case-by-case basis. That's what makes it fun to me, because it's like unlocking a puzzle every time. What's causing this acne? Is it hereditary? Is it diet? Is it a little bit of everything? And then what's going to be best to treat it? So it's very fun to me. And I just saw something I'm trying to watch too. Proactive. So Proactive, there's a lot of benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid. I used to see Proactive things all the time, and people get better for 2 months, and then they get a lot worse sometimes because the body reacts to salicylics and glycolics and even benzoyl peroxide sometimes, and it like adjusts, and the oil comes back. It'll kind of get better, and then it just keeps going. The power of a retinoid topically to stabilize it compared to that is not even comparable. It's a lot better. So let's keep going. As far as the treatment protocols, non-antibiotics with hormonal acne in females. It's a great topic, and it's something I see almost every day. Let me get a drink of water. Hormonal acne, generally speaking, you'll have a woman 35, 40, even 45, and they're getting these deep nodules around the mouth and along the jawline. Antibiotics sometimes help, but you can't be on them all the time. And we do utilize something called spironolactone or aldactone, which is a potassium-sparing diuretic, and it is used for high blood pressure. It doesn't do I want to say just in the beginning here, this is just kind of generic treatments. I'm not treating anybody specifically right now in the comment section or anything like that. But these are things that you can bring up to your provider that you learn here and see if that is a particularly good thing for you. Spironolactone, there's some studies that some people say, I think it works, that it might not be as great as they think it is. But from my personal standpoint and utilizing it quite a bit, for the right patient, it can be amazing. And it can bind to some of the hormones. It has a binding capacity and of some of the hormones, progesterones and estrogens, aldosterones. These are different hormones that can be fluctuating at different levels in certain people because of fibroids in the uterus sometimes. because of cysts on the ovaries, because of endometriosis. These organs are producers of those hormones, and when they're inflamed or there's something wrong with them, you can still even be within normal limits. Sometimes you're outside of normal limits. Obviously, polycystic ovarian syndrome, when you have multiple cysts all over the ovaries, you're growing hair and beards in women. They'll have horrible acne. That's an obvious thing you see come in. You can kind of diagnose that just from looking. But it's pretty common for a young girl to have an inflamed follicle on the ovary, to have a small cyst. It might be there for 6 months and then it goes away, or it absorbs, or it pops. And that can cause fluctuations for that 6 month or year period that you can utilize spironolactone, and it binds to some of those hormones that are fluctuating, so they're not causing the inflammation that in unit. And what happens a lot of times is they will have irregular periods, very heavy flow the first 2 to 3 days, very severe cramping, acne on the torso or on the jaw or around the mouth. Those are all signs of potential, fluctuations in the hormones. And utilizing something like spironolactone, you will see a normalization sometimes of their periods. They become more regular. They have less cramping. They don't have as heavy of flow. So these are all things that, following up, asking the right questions, you can see. Is it right for everybody? No. But that's where your experience as a provider, seeing that presentation, you're like, oh, I know what that is. And you start using the correct things, and you see them just blossom. They do great. The PIH and the pigment starts to fade. They're not getting new acne lesions. You don't, basically, you're not curing acne, you're controlling it. And that's another thing that's very, very important. And yeah, Lessa, it is a blood pressure medication. Luckily, it's weak. It's, if you're 120 over 80, you may go to 110 over 75 on it, on 100 milligrams even. And it is off label. Dermatology utilizes it off label. And it is utilized on label a lot of times on top of bigger water pills or stronger hydrochlorothiazide, I think it is. They will add this just to fine tune to get the blood pressure a little lower. They utilize it. And my dog's back. He's saying hi. They utilize it that way, where they'll add it on. When you use it by itself, it does lower it a little bit. And that's a good point, because I do have some very slender young girls that come in that have blood pressure that's 95 over 50 or 45 even. They've got low blood pressures, and they usually know that if they do. When I got a really slender young, woman, I will ask them, I'll usually start them on a lower dose at 50 milligrams, not 100. And I ask them, if they get up from a couch, do they feel lightheaded ever? That's a good question to ask, to know if somebody has maybe a little bit of low getting up quickly and feeling lightheaded. They may have low blood pressure. So that was a good question, Alessa. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have people come back sometimes and I tell them, I say, hey, this is something that's used for high blood pressure. We're using it off label. The pharmacist is going to say, why is the dermatology office or somebody in dermatology giving you this? So it is something, man, I run into this in women in their 40s a lot that are getting premenopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal. The one thing I tell them is menopause is this, it's a movie. It's not a picture. It's something that's happening in a sequence of events over years, sometimes being premenopausal, hot flashes starting, just starting to see the first changes in your period. His name's Dexter. That's the dog's name. Dexter dog. I think that show Dexter was huge 10 years ago when my wife and I used to watch that. I think that's how he got his name. But yeah, he's a sweetheart. He's a yellow lab, great dog. He's my fishing buddy. Before I had kids, he was out there all the time, but now my kids are always out there. So, man, when we're talking about acne, and I'm talking to this specific hormonal acne group, and especially women in their 40s, you can do the spironolactone and see pretty good results as far as regulating those fluctuations of hormones, the binding capacity of spironolactone, and it, I don't like to oversell it, but I literally have women bring in their sisters and like, hey, they want that miracle pill that literally shut down my acne. For the right patient, it can be almost seem like a miracle. But just knowing when to use it, you know, if a girl is spotting for 2 months, that's not good or normal, and that can happen when you're messing with hormones. So obviously, I would take them down or off of it. If a girl is not getting her period for 2 to 3 months, and she usually does, that's not good or normal either. So having the follow-ups, having the conversation, asking them about side effects with any medication, it's important. Um, most people tolerate it well though. So yeah, so when we're talking about oil reduction, stabilizing bacteria overgrowth. All of these types of things are what you're looking at when you're looking at a patient. Extractions, for sure. I utilize them. You see me do extractions. I utilize them. I do it myself. I like to get in there and I like to feel, you know, how many they have, how oily they are. It helps me with what I'm going to write as a medication for them as well. So that type of patient, that 12, 14-year-old that has a lot of comedones, retinoids do great. Benzoyl peroxide or clindamycin topically, they do great, and they come back in and they're loving it. A couple years goes by, the hormones are fluctuating. They're getting growth spurts. They may get some of that nodular acne. We may utilize some oral antibiotics here and there, and so that's that's kind of acne in a nutshell. As far as the hormonal acne that we see, the acne conglobata is like the worst acne cases you ever see. You'll see them come in, and that's a whole nother subset. It's not super common. I just had somebody this week. There can be triggers for that sometimes. A lot of times it's hereditary. So, we will utilize Accutane on those patients a lot to kind of settle it down. We'll talk about diet. There's just a lot of things we utilize, but man, we're going on an hour. I can't believe it. So it goes quick. And with my acne patients, I do spend time. I want to know. We talked about diet a little bit. Reduction of sugars, man. Sugar it feeds inflammation. I don't think that many people understand that how much it feeds inflammation, and how much is in certain things like Mountain Dew. I mean, oh my goodness, there's so much sugar. You can look at the cups of sugar sometimes. So reducing sugar intake reduces inflammation in the body, and that goes with acne as well. Dairy, chocolate, there's some things. Dairy has been tied to some acne outbreaks for certain people. So everybody's unique. Asking the right questions, looking at diet, looking at where they're at and their age. Are they still having hormone fluctuations because of they still have the plates at the end of their bones, their growth plates that are signaling to their body to release higher levels of hormones. All these things play a part when you're looking at the patient as a whole and your acne patient and how you're going to treat them. Adolescent acne, hormone fluctuation acne. There's adult acne. It's not as common as adolescent acne, but it happens for sure. A lot of times they have very bad scars. So in treating acne scars, I usually like to stabilize people's acne for 6 to 12 months before we'll do anything on their scars, because you don't want to pay for a scar, whether it's microneedling or laser, and then break out again and get new scars. We want to stabilize that acne if you can. So I know it's getting late in the United Kingdom and parts of Europe. I'm getting ready to have a little date night with Mrs. PopZit. My mom's coming over, watching the kids, and so we're gonna go out and have a date night. So that's kind of fun, something to look forward to. But for a tough week at work. But yeah, so we talked a little bit about the pathogenesis, some of the triggers, knowing what maybe some person's trigger is. The different treatments are out there. The biggest thing is be fluid as a provider. If they come back and they're 40% better or 50% better, make a change. That's my closing here is I have them back in 2 to 3 months generally. In clinical trials, they're 20 to 40% better in the first month, 40 to 65% better in the second month, and 65 to 95% better by the end of the third month. in clinical trials. So you have them back too early and they're not a lot better. You didn't give it the medications long enough to work correctly. So I have my patients generally back at 3 months. And my goal is over 90%. I almost always get there, over 90% improvement, 90 to 95. And if they're not there, I make a change. I change the strength of the retinoid. I may change the oral, what we're doing orally. Having them back, making those changes once they're stable, seeing them 1 to 2 times a year. That's what we do. So, having that conversation, I can do that. It took me an hour here, but I do my spiel in about 4 to 6 minutes. I come in, I ask them the right questions. And, I look at their acne, look at their torso. Are they having it on the torso or only the face? Acne is your chance to shine as a provider, especially in the eyes of the parents. So I have had people switch their everything to me. They just brought in their kid for acne and they're like, I just saw how much time and effort, and it isn't a ton of time. It's just knowledge that you impart on them. They have come over to our office and to me in particular and their whole family as dermatology coming in for skin cancers and everything else simply because what I did with their child in acne. It's a great opportunity as a provider. Look up the current, data, the new trials that come out, the new medications, and utilize them correctly. And you can change lives with it. And you'll bring over whole families. That's happened thousands of times for me in 12 years. And I love it. It's great. They come over and they're like, hey, you should see that this guy broke down acne like it was going to war with it. And I am going, that's what I do. So yeah, we get them stable. They leave happy. They're smiling, and you improve as a provider. So I hope that was informative. It was almost an hour. I talk too much, I know, but I guess YouTube works for me because it's a bunch of people that talk a lot. So we're going to have a date night. MrPopZit fishing, bang biscuit bass fishing. Bang biscuit's over a 5-pound fish and a bass in particular, but it's fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. I have a lot. It was nice getting to see me. I know I should hand out CMEs for this. I really appreciate you guys subscribing to the new channel. A new channel is always hard to grow. It is one of the hardest things out there. And every year as more people pile onto YouTube, it's even harder. Having a channel like I have with MrPopZit is a true blessing. It really is. The fact that we grew the way we did, I just passed 2 years. We are literally at 100 million views and just under 250,000 subscribers. It's pretty amazing. The new channel is MrPopZit Fishing. So I'm going to be concurrently putting up a MrPopZit fishing video and then a new MrPopZit dermatology video each week, 1 or 2. And if you guys can take the 20 or 30 seconds it takes to go over there and just click play to give me a play on one of my fishing videos, that it will be fully monetized, and it's going to help the MrPopZit brand as a total move forward. There's a lot of other YouTubers actually that do that. And a lot of people that have been talking about that have been demonetized, actually, that they have another channel, another passion or something that they do that isn't something that's demonetized, and they can still grow as a brand and as that small business. So I am going to put the link on here on this description. I think we're already like up to 70 something. Last somebody said 95. That's awesome. We're almost at 100 already. Once I get to 1,000, and then it's 4,000 hours of viewing too. But once I get the longer videos, we'll get to that 4,000 hour part. We can monetize, and I can monetize the MrPopZit fishing, and then I can get ads, and that really helps this whole thing grow. So I really appreciate the support. I know some of you don't even like fishing, but there's going to be other stuff on there that's interesting, stuff with the kids and stuff that is going to be fun. Thanks so much for the support. It's going to be on there. I opened it with the MrPopZit fishing, my new channel. I'm going to close it with MrPopZit fishing. My new channel, I just opened up yesterday. I only have 3 or 4 videos, but I've probably got 400 to edit. But it's going to be fun. I'm going to bring some of my same fun editing flair that I do with my slow motion, music, all kinds of stuff with the fishing as well. And one thing it's going to be really, I think, is interesting. I have an amazing underwater drone, 4K underwater drone, omnidirectional. The thing is no joke. And I'm going to get all kinds. I already have a lot of underwater footage that's very relaxing. I know a lot of you guys watch my channel before you go to bed because the pops and for the relaxing bits. That's going to have that too. So I think there'll be something on there that you can find. But even if you're just clicking it to help support me, I appreciate it. And a lot of people have said, what can we do to help you with this demonetization? This is it. I finally found it. I think the other channel is what's going to be the easiest way to do it. Doesn't cost you anything but a click. And I really appreciate it. So you guys have a great night. Look at that. 1 hour. Boom. We did it. Talk for an hour. That's crazy. Doesn't feel like it. But I'll go an extra 2 minutes here for the people who stuck through. If you guys had some questions, I know Mrs. Popzit's getting ready. I've got a little bit. I'm pretty much ready. I'm ready to go. when I go, I just put on a shirt and I'm out the door. Yes, I come for the CME. I stay for the friendly chat or Brit comment. Thank you. But yeah, shout outs to you guys. Kathleen, Gloria, thank you guys for sticking around. 96 subs already. That's pretty cool to get 100 in an hour. Man, I'm going to, I'll pop on on my MrPopZit Dermatology and do some reminders for the MrPopZit Fishing. And when we get to 1,000, I'm going to do a big thank you to you guys also. Lisa Mode, let me see the question. Please. Okay. I'm going to look up. I don't know. Maybe you need to redo the question if it's way up here, Lisa. I get so many questions on here. But I would love to answer your question if I can find it or if you can say it again. I see you've said please a couple times, but the question's so far up I can't find it. But if you want to write it again. Kentucky's here too, Kathleen. How you guys doing in Kentucky? My Ohio people, I know it's been cold. It's been really cold in the last month, but yes. Let me see. Okay, Rose Smith, 2 particular channels. Natural products for sure. Good question. Mom's Daily Agenda. I like that name too. There are some great all natural anti-inflammatories. Some people, witch hazel and green tea extracts. There's a lot of plant-based natural anti-inflammatories. The caution I give is I have people allergic to aloe vera. For most people, it would probably soothe their burns or anything else. Some people, it causes horrible blistering rashes. And so natural products, plant-based products, you just got to try them. Anything that's new, I always tell people, litmus test your wrist. Just do a little bit on the soft skin of your wrist. The neck is the same way, but the face. Put a little bit here for 3 days. If you don't get a red reaction there, it's usually safe to use. That's another pearl that a lot of people don't know about, but you should do. A lot of the all natural stuff have multiple plants. I've seen some with like 25 plants in them. And that's a common contact allergen for a lot of people. So yes, Lisa, I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. I saw you guys said, please, like do you know anything about it? Okay. Oh yeah. Granular, I think angular. I think you're talking about granulare, annulare, granuloma annulare. Yes, I know a lot about it. And I treat it all the time. And it can be very severe. And it's a whole nother diagnosis. Granuloma annulare is a common thing we see. Unknown etiology of why it pops up on just certain people. And most people will get just a couple spots on their ankles or wrists. I have patients covering their whole body. And so there are systemic medications you can use. I recommend going to a dermatologist because there's multiple things that you can use. But yes, we do treat that. Some people even inject this. It's misdiagnosed a lot of times until you get to dermatology or dermatology office. You can inject it. There's topicals you can use, and then there's oral systemics. But going into that's another 25 minutes. But yes, I do know about it. And we should probably, maybe I'll do a pop talk about it and we'll do a dermatology diagnosis. So, yes, man, I am so sorry that you're going through that. I have a handful, probably a dozen patients that have been following me for years that are covered and it's really bad. And we have tried 3 or 4, oral medications. There's Dapsone. There are quite a few things you can try, and some people respond to one thing and not, and they don't. The other ones don't even touch it. So there's no quick and easy answer on that. But make sure you're seeing a dermatologist that's up on the latest data, and they do have options. They do have options. Even Accutane has been something I know people have utilized. It's so difficult. They utilize a bunch of different things, and but yeah, we might break that down. I'm so sorry you're going through that, because I know how that can be life changing, and it can even be painful. So very frustrating. But okay, guys, we did. Thank you. I'm signing off. Getting ready to go on the date. Thank you, Catherine Bryan, for the suturing. I love suturing. If you can't tell, quick 1 minute story. Before I go, I was bringing home pork shoulders when I was in school. I couldn't wait to suture. And I was the only one. Like, there was one other person in my whole class, like 98 physician assistants. I would do 50 closures on it. Because the pork skin was very similar. I would undermine. I would try all the different closures, because I wanted to do surgery, and I wanted, the second that I touched a human for the first time, I wanted it to be like the 100th time I've done that stitch. And it was. I did 2 different pork shoulders, about 50 closures on each. I had already done 150 closures by the time I touched human skin. So I hope it comes through, because I do it all the time. I do it daily, and I really take pride in my suturing and the way that people come back and the way it heals. So thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. So signing off. Thanks for popping by, guys. Have a great Sunday. And remember, MrPopZit Fishing, let's grow it. We're going to have fun with it too. And it is literally going to help keep MrPopZit Dermatology channel moving forward and keep it active. So I'm doing them concurrently. The brand is going to grow together, and you guys have all the power to make it grow. There's a huge group of you out there, 250,000 strong. So thanks for the support. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Here we go.